Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to a WatchCrave video. Today, we will be having a look at another Seiko, the Seiko Mini Turtle SBDY085. A while ago, I reviewed a homage watch of the Seiko Captain Willard and kind of fell in love with it. The case, despite looking rather oversized for my wrist, feels very comfortable. However, I felt that the watch was still a little too big for my tiny wrist and wanted something a bit smaller. I then had a look through Seiko's catalog but couldn't find anything to my liking. So I started to expand my searches to include JDMs and older models. That search ultimately led me to this Mini Turtle here. The Mini Turtle line is currently JDM exclusive and is only sold in Japan. The line used to be available internationally but has been discontinued for now. Beside this watch, there are a few more variations to choose from. First, we have an all-green SBDY083, then a stainless steel black SBDY085, a carbon black SBDY087, and a special edition iStyle SBDY109. As for the older Mini Turtles, I won't cover them here, but here's a small list of models if you're interested in hunting them down. As for the price, these JDM models currently retails for around 56,000 yen, or around 360 US dollars. Of course, you should be able to find them for a bit less. Unfortunately, the only way to get them at the moment is either in a physical store in Japan or through an online seller. For your information, I got mine through a store through Chronos24. It's just one of the many places you can get this watch from. I recommend looking around first to find a good deal. For the packaging, first we have an outer Seiko box that houses the inner watch box and documents. The inner watch box is grey on the outside and sort of tans on the inside. Next to the inner box, we have the manual in Japanese and also a guarantee that is only valid in Japan. Now, if you happen to be in Japan, there are certain stores that will provide you with an international guarantee instead of a domestic one. These will be the big chains or authorized dealers that often deal with international visitors. Now with all of that out of the way, let's check out the watch dimensions and specs. The watch has a diameter of 42.3mm, it is exactly 13mm thick. The caseback does have a slightly protruding logo, which contribute a couple millimeters to this thickness. The lug width is 20mm. For the lug to lug, I measure it to be just under 43mm. That is about 3mm shorter than a re-released Captain Willard and a Slim Turtle, and also 5mm shorter than a King Turtle, in case anyone might be wondering. For the watch glass, the watch sports a Seiko Hardlex crystal with no AR coating. Despite having no AR coating, I must say that there's no issues with glare or reflections when looking at the watch. From my personal experience, Seiko's Hardlex crystal is pretty awesome when it comes to clarity. For the water resistant, the watch has a water resistance of 200 meters. This is a proper dive watch that is fully compliant with the ISO 6425 diver's watch requirement. With 4 links removed to fit my 6.2-inch wrist, the watch weighs in at exactly 150 grams. It's not light but not heavy either. For the movement, this watch is running with the Seiko 4R35 movement. The 4R35 is an entry-level Seiko workhorse movement, and is also known as the NH35, which is very popular with a lot of micro brands. The movement beats at 3 Hz or 21,600 beats per hour and offers a power reserve of around 40 hours. It features a date complication and also hex and hand wind. In terms of accuracy, Seiko states the accuracy range is -35 seconds to +40 seconds per day. For this particular watch, I measure it running at +8 seconds per day. Next up, let's have a look at the watch exterior and design. The case is made of stainless steel and is brush finish on top and polished on the sides. The sides sort of bevel down to the bottom of the case. There's also a small polished bevel on the inner side of the lugs. As always with Seiko watches, there's no sharp points or edges to worry about. Overall, the case finishing is okay, but nothing to write home about. The back of the case is also polished, and we have a screw-down caseback decorated with the Seiko Wave logo. As I mentioned before, this part is protruded from the case by a few millimeters, adding to the overall thickness of the watch. However, it's not noticeable on the wrist. The surrounding part of the caseback is laser printed with the Seiko and Prospect logo, along with the serial number and the Made in Japan text, plus other decorative text. Moving on to the crown, we have a screw-down crown that is polished and bevel. The crown is unsigned and is somewhat uncomfortable to grip and operate. I'm not sure if it's a QC issue that applies only to this watch, but it feels rather gritty when unlocking and locking the crown. The knurling on the crown also doesn't feel as nice as the more expensive Seiko Prospect watches. It makes sense as this watch costs less than 1/3 of the price of the next tier of the Seiko Prospect watches, but the Seiko 5 GMT I reviewed a while ago had a much better crown experience. For the bezel, we have a 120 clicks unidirectional rotating bezel. The bezel is well finished, smooth to the touch but easy to grip, and also operates well. There's also not much backplay. The bezel insert is made of aluminium and is painted black and decorated with your usual diving timer in a silvery paint. There's also a Lume pip at the 12 o'clock position. The Lume pip itself is recessed and protected by a top glass, so it won't get dirty and patina easily. Most importantly, the bezel insert is actually well aligned. I was a bit worried about QC issues when purchasing this watch, but luckily it came without any issues. Anyway, here's the bezel sound. Moving on to the bracelet, we have a pseudo 3-link style bracelet that is brush finish on top and bottom, and polished on the sides. It's not a real 3 links, as it looks like each link was made from one piece of steel, definitely a cost-cutting measure. On a positive note, the bracelet comes with solid end links, and the end links are also female, making this watch extremely wearable for those with smaller size wrists. It also has a much tighter fit with the lugs compared to the SBDY085. The bracelet doesn't quite articulate upwards, but the downward articulation is pretty good. It also tapers from 20mm down to 18mm. Overall, I think it's an alright bracelet considering the price. Onto the clasps, we have a button push clasp along with a safety latch signed with the Seiko logo. The clasp is brush finish on top and polished on the sides. There are also 4 micro adjustment holes. Finally, there's a small diver extension that requires a bit of nail to activate. Personally, I'm not a fan of this extension as it makes the bracelet a bit noisy. Next up is the dial. For this version, we have a black matte dial along with applied indices. However, the indices do sit a bit flat compared to other prospect divers. The edges of the indices are polished and the inner parts are filled with a good amount of Seiko Lume Bright. Below the 12 o'clock position, we have a printed Seiko logo in white. Above the 6 o'clock, we have the prospect logo and automatic text in white and a red accented water rating text. Being a JDM model, we also have a small Made in Japan text printed at the edge of the dial. At the 3 o'clock position, there's an unframed white date window that sits neatly below a round cyclops. There is also a small lume index next to the date window to satisfy the ISO 6425 dive watch requirement. For the hands, first we have a small syringe hour hand, then an arrow style minute hand. Both of these hands are sort of brush finish and filled with lume. Personally, I would have preferred they were polished to match with the finish on the indices. As for the second hand, it is a needle style hand with a lollipop counterweight that is filled with lume. It's painted red on one half and black on the other half. Pretty nice actually. Finally, at the end of the dial, we have a painted chapter ring that doubles up as a rehole. The chapter ring seems to be well aligned. Moving on to the lume, Seiko dive watches are known to have decent lume, and this watch is no exception. The lumes are bright, legible, and last for a good amount of time. As for the wrist fit, this being a pretty small watch means that it fits pretty nicely on my 6.2-inch wrist. The watch is very comfortable on the wrist thanks to the cushioned case shape. It's neither too light nor too heavy on the stock bracelet. The bracelet, despite being a bit meh, is also fairly comfortable to wear as the edges have been rounded off nicely. So, what are my thoughts about this watch? To start off, it's a great little watch. The dial is well executed and very legible. The lume is bright and lasts for a decent amount of time. The watch also has good dimensions and will fit all sorts of wrist sizes, including smaller ones. The movement may be entry level, but it is a very reliable workhorse movement that will keep on ticking for years without needing a service, and also inexpensive to replace. However, there are a few things I wish was better. The first is the crown action. I don't know if this is just an issue with this particular watch, but the crown is a bit too gritty for my liking. Another minus point is the bracelet. As always with Seiko, their stock bracelets are kinda subpar. It's a cost-cutting bracelet that is pretending to be something a bit better. On the plus side, the bracelet is quite comfortable to wear and actually has solid end links. One thing that I don't mind, but some may, is the mineral watch glass. A sapphire crystal would help in increasing the value factor for this watch, but I suppose that will also drive up the price a bit. Overall though, it's still a very good watch. For around $300 US, you're getting an entry-level, but a reliable and proper dive watch that will probably keep on ticking for years without needing a service. And that brings us to the end of this video. What do you think about this watch? Are you interested in getting your hands on one? If you already got one, what are your thoughts about the watch? Feel free to drop a comment down below and let us know. I hope this video helped you in some ways. If you find it enjoyable or helpful, please drop a like and subscribe for future videos. As a growing channel, I really appreciate your support. Until next time!